Say it with me. First base, right field. Just like last year. Just like the year before. And just like, well, you know, good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this last Friday after the most recent episode of this program. The Pirates made their decisions on which players to tender arbitration contracts, and they did this with a minimal amount of shock value, to say the least. Brian De La Cruz was, of course, non-tendered. Terrible acquisition. Would have come at a way more terrible price in 2025, quadrupling his salary probably into the $4 million range. That was easy. Connor Joe, not as easy. He started off the 2024 season, I feel like I should remind everyone, as one of the Pirates' most consistent hitters, at times their most consistent hitter. It didn't keep up. Joe's always had this thing that follows him, that the more he plays, the more he gets exposed. And when he gets exposed, the numbers drop, he'll fall into a funk. And that's really the way his summer would wind up, unfortunately. Great dude. He'll be missed by a lot of people in that clubhouse. Now, having said that, again, no issue with either of these moves. No issue with David Bednar being tendered. And yeah, I was there for all the blown saves and everything else that went wrong. I just feel like there's something that's missing there that's so obvious that it might be fixed with a single snap. And maybe that's why you bring in a Brent Strom, that's the assistant pitching coach, who has a wealth of knowledge, who can work with Bednar, who's never not, pardon the double negative, he's never not been a strike thrower until this past season. And you know, I guess I could blame management the way I know people on the inside have, some people on the inside, I should say, because Bednar was curiously rushed back onto the active roster after having been shut down for the final couple of weeks of spring training, went right across the state to Miami, and that was all just, yeah. But no, you know, he had all summer to get straightened out and to get back to doing something he's had no problem doing in his life. So I think you have to keep him, and I think you doubly have to keep him if you're not intending to try to bring back Aroldis Chapman, who of course cost $10.5 million this past season, because then your bullpen would be down to, yeah, right, it's just, and Colin Holderman and a couple other arms, and Carmen Mlodzinski and whatever. I mean, you have to have backhand guys. My goodness, if the Pirates didn't learn that lesson after this year, I don't know when they will. Can't have enough of them. But yeah, when you send out Joe and you cut ties with Rowdy Tellez, you're right back to the same conversation. And here again, I'm not criticizing the cuts of either guy, least of all Tellez. But how long is this that we've been talking about the same two positions? How is it that year after year after year, you keep coming back to first base and right field? Well, the real answer to that is, you know, I'm not into symptoms, I'm into causes, is that they've developed next to nothing internally from the hitting standpoint. Not the happiest, go-luckiest spinster inside 115 Federal could tell you anything differently. They have nowhere to hide from that. They even have a first overall draft pick who can't hit. So just remember, that's always at the foundation of these types of things. It's not a matter, I don't think, of looking at, well, they could have signed this guy, they could have signed that. Sure, they could have had Carlos Santana this season. Santana pretty much begged them to take him back after 2023. They ignored him. Carlos goes on to have a great year somewhere else, and the Pirates got Tellez. And, you know, with the right field opening, I find that to be, believe it or not, even more egregious. Yeah, I know you can just put anybody who can hit at first base, and it's supposed to be automatic that they can play the position. But where you're talking about a corner outfield spot. What you're really talking about is any outfielder who can hit, who can be slid to that spot. Now, it's nice if they have an arm, but it's not super necessary when you play half of your games at PNC Park. You just need someone who can hit. One person who owns a glove, who knows how to listen when the center fielder calls him off. And over 5 full years, this system couldn't produce a single guy to do that. That's how. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Steve, and it's in reference to the episode that I had last Friday about Matt Haig, the new hitting coach, his remarks about his approach to instruction. Steve asks, DK, what's stopping the Pirates hitters from just going up there and swinging the bat? They've been doing it their whole lives, and that's why they're in the majors now. You know, I've asked this very question of myself, countless times coming out of stadiums. I can't even begin to, I'm thinking to myself, you're there. Like you said, that's how you got there. And you want, more than anything, especially the younger guys, to stay there. So there's a twofold thing in play here. One is that to stay there, you need to show that you're a good listener and you're a team guy and everything else. So the last thing you want is to be seen as some sort of poor pupil. On the other hand, you need to hit. You need to hit. You're not going to walk your way. You're not going to patience your way. You're not going to run the starting pitcher's pitch count down your way into a long career in the bigs. This is part of the great fallacy here of the Ben Cherington hitting philosophy, the one that I mentioned last week, where you're planning as if everyone on your roster either is already Joey Votto or should become Joey Votto, when in fact they are not that. There's only one of those, and now even he's not the bigs anymore. So what do you do with these guys? What do? You working with them on a one-size-fits-all general approach, not the specific stuff, but the general approach, which was exactly the opposite of what Cherington insisted he was going to do with this system's development back when he sat in a glass room with me, Travis Williams, and Bob Nutting upon being hired 5 years ago. The main emphasis was that it was going to be every player has his own player plan. It was all going to be different. And then the next thing, soon enough, meaning as soon as, COVID and whatever passed, you started to see some of these young guys come up and they just would fall apart. And you'd read and hear about what they were doing in the minors, and it wasn't anything like this. And they deny this. I mean, they wouldn't, we don't want to take the bat out of their hands. We don't want to whatever. But that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. When you're showing them, this is what that pitcher brings, meaning that day. This is what that pitcher's going to come at you with. This is how they're going to attack you. You want to stay in this quadrant. You want to be right in here. And if you don't see anything there, just don't even bother with it. Just stay. Well, what if swinging the bat might actually work? Or what if hitting it to the opposite field might work, regardless of where that pitcher's friendly quadrant might happen to be? So it's not that the player comes up and some hitting instructor goes up to them and says, well, kid, you're done swinging now. It's nothing like that. It's more along the lines of what I just said. It's a specific daily preparation for a specific pitcher that they're facing that day. And that approach is almost always passive. It's almost always reasons to not swing versus reasons to swing. Now, they will tell them, and this is the part that they'll tell you as well, that, well, we want them to have that aggressive mindset. You hear that term? What they actually mean when they say that is they want the player to think about swinging. They don't want him to actually swing. They want it both ways. Doesn't work both ways. Not for everybody. It did for Votto. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. Going to do another one of these tomorrow.